Thank you so much for joining our show today. We're going to be talking to Steve Curtis about lending and about what's going on in this market and any questions that he may be able to answer for us and all of that. So that's what we're going to do today. Thanks so much again, Steve, for coming and joining with me on this program. We're going to have so much fun doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate the invite. I'm looking forward to getting as much information as we can, especially in this market, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of markets, I've been in a lot of markets over my years, and I have never had anything quite like this. So, what do you think about this market?
Well, I think it's crazy. I think the good news is, I was around in 2007 and 8, not to date myself, but I think we're still making good loans. So I think that's the good thing. I think it's, the prices and stuff are going up for a different reason. It's not because we're giving people that shouldn't get loans. But it's tough, buyers it's like 10 people for every house. Like if you really want to buy a house, when you see it go active, you might be able to see it. You got to trust the pictures. You got to get in contract before you know what you're buying almost.
Where are all the people coming from, first off? What is the industries that's driving this? Mm-hmm. And, when is it going to stop? If they're not going to drop interest rates, they say for 2 more years like this, they expect them to be this low. So what do you foresee there?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things, right? So COVID, everybody just kind of like went into hiding as much as possible. Unfortunately, some people lost their jobs, got furloughed, laid off, part-time, whatever that was. We figured out our way through that market. There was a lot of refinances, rates got super low, so people got really excited about buying. And I think this is kind of a culmination of a few things. Rates are low, so you have the FOMO, fear of missing out. People want to buy with low rates, right? Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of people preparing to buy that maybe they couldn't buy in August, maybe they couldn't buy in September. So you couple that with people returning to the workforce, then you have this potential first-time homebuyer credit. You have all these first-time homebuyer programs. You have tax returns starting to hit people's accounts. Mm-hmm. You have this perfect storm of all these buyers that don't want to miss out on low rates. Plus, our market is what you would call a job destination market. So we have people coming in that are coming from other states. So we don't get to sell their current home.
Right.
And all of that creates a market of very little supply and very, very high demand. Mm-hmm. And I think it might take us a little while to come out of that.
Like, is that possible for people to be borrowing money somewhere else? Like, instead of gifting, instead of their family gifting them a certain amount of money, mm-hmm. Is there an opportunity for them to get money to put into a down payment or using for in case the appraisal doesn't come in, so they need that extra cash or stuff that they may not have?
Yeah, so I think like anything else, when things get tight, we become creative, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Within the rules, of course, but we have to become creative. So the actual guideline is you can't have unsecured borrowed funds. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if they're secured against something, if they're secured against a retirement account, if they're secured against a fixed asset, if they're secured against something else, you can bring money in from those sources that aren't a gift, mm-hmm. so that you can be more competitive in your offer. Okay. Some people are using, the bridge loans so that they can, not sell their current house or not have the problem of having to move out of this one before they can get this one. And so what that means is whatever you were going to put down, we get the loan for that amount. And then when you finally sell your other home, you pay that bridge loan off.
Okay,
right?
Perfect. Those are,
People are using those solutions more now than they have in the past, because if you want to be competitive, they want to have no contingencies.
Exactly.
Contingencies, right now, there's so many offers coming in that the contingencies are almost a death sentence. You're just not going to get accepted. That's not to say that the homes that are sitting on the market maybe more than 3 or 4 weeks, mm-hmm. you can still get in there with your conventional style offers that you would have done 8 months ago, and you're still getting those deals done. But
Yeah.
the ones that are hitting the market and going under contract in 48 to 72 hours, it's a no contingency game.
Right.
That's just the way it is. So again, when our backs are against the wall, we get creative. We find all of our possible ways to buy. Now, what I've seen in the past is we have a tendency to continue to use these tools even after things settle, and then people forget about them. But in the very beginning, they're like, "Oh, I still want to do this. I still want to use this." So you still see all these tools being used that are totally acceptable for, FHA, VA, or even conventional or USDA financing, but people haven't been using them because the market has been balanced.
What do you think about buyers that you have that are having to be told they have to waive the appraisal contingency? And how do you talk to your buyers about stuff like that and prepare them for that?
So the conversation I try to have with them is, if a home is listed for 300 and you bid 330, you have to be prepared that you're going to pay the 30,000. I think it's fair to say I think if it appraises for less than what you listed it, then you should at least negotiate that part. But I think they should be prepared for, if it's 315, you're paying the other 15, whatever the shortfall is, and explaining to them what that means in actual dollars on a very detailed worksheet, so they can see, okay, here's your exposure. If you're wanting to make an offer like this, this is your exposure. Your worst case scenario, if it appraises at 300, this is your number that you need to bring. And then making sure that not only they can do that, but two, they're comfortable with proceeding that way.
Right.
I think it's dangerous to just write the offers and say the words and not mean it. I think that's not a good way to go about it. I think you need to be able to finish the transaction, because a lot of people put a lot of hard work into it. But I think having the conversation, showing it to them in black and white, verifying that they can do that or perform to bring the transaction to close, and then making sure that they're comfortable with it.
Tell me what we should tell buyers that have, like we were talking earlier about, how do you explain to them what they need to do? And what would you tell them right now, that if there are people out there that are stopping because of credit and because they have been hit a few years ago and they're just pretty much like, oh my God, I'm done with this. What would you give advice to them about?
Yeah, a couple things. One, don't give up. If you really want to be a homeowner, don't give up. That's number one.
Right.
Number two is do you know where your baseline is? We have people all the time that say my credit isn't very good, but they qualify. Because you might look at Credit Karma or Experian or TransUnion, and it might, you may have a 650 credit score, and when you look at their table, it's in the fair. So you're like, well, I don't have good credit. Well, that can still buy a house. So then we go through the options. We go through the options with them. Well, do you want to buy now at a 650, or do you want to work on getting to this point? And here's the difference in cost. For the people that want to buy that don't qualify right now, every lender, and I'm going to say every lender because I come on here as a resource, not just to get people's business, but every lender has access to good resources when it comes to credit. We have good analyzers. We have good what if simulators. We can go in there and say, if you did this, then this is your change to your score. We can even change the time frame. We can say, okay, that doesn't work now, but it works 6 months from now. So anybody that's willing to put in just an extra 15 minutes per application, and I'm sure there are some people that are too busy to do that, but if you have the time as a lender to spend an extra 15 minutes per application, half the people that don't credit qualify right now, you could figure out and establish a plan for them, sometimes 3 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year, but you can figure out what that plan is and put them on a roadmap, right? And if they really want to buy, then they're going to follow through with that. It's not
And they
hard.
will.
It's not hard. It's not, if you take the time and you truly want to serve people, then you should do that, because that's going to create a very loyal audience of buyers and very good network of referral people for you. For people that are watching this that, want to get into this because it's a good market and all these other things, I will just warn you to build your business on service, because one thing that COVID blessed this whole world with is we had a growing kind of appetite for more personal connection and for more human connection.
Right.
We've been using devices and being more dependent on devices. And we had this growing appetite for personal connection. And then you put everybody in their homes by themselves.
Yeah.
And so now coming out of COVID, it accelerated years of that appetite for connection. And the customer service, face-to-face, person-to-person interaction is back.
Yeah.
And it takes a different kind of business, and you have to be able to adapt. But that's what people want now. It's coming full circle, and it's always going to be cycles, right? But it's coming full circle, and the service companies, not just to the customers, but also to your teammates and to the other vendors and people and everybody that brings a transaction to the table, serving and being appreciative and using grace and gratitude. That is what is going to drive business.
Absolutely.
I think for the next 5 to 10 years at least.
Tell me, what is the difference? And what buyers might ask is, what's the difference between a fixed and adjustable rate? Okay.
So what you might hear fixed rate in the same sentence as adjustable. So I'm going to go, I'll kind of somewhat deep dive, but I'll do it in 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
So fixed rate, you'll hear, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30-year fixed. So the number is the number of years. And then fixed is, that's the rate no matter what, every single payment that you make until you pay it off, right? That's a fixed rate mortgage. Now, on an adjustable rate mortgage, you'll hear things like 228 or 327 or 51. That first number, okay, the 2, 3, 5, that's how many years your rate is fixed for.
Okay.
So if you have a 5-1 arm, that means whatever your rate is, let's just say for the purpose of this call, a 3% rate, you're going to have a 3% rate for the first 5 years. Okay. And then after that, every year, you'll be subject to an adjustment of a maximum of, depending on how the adjustable rate mortgage is set up, let's just say it's 0.5 point, right? So every year, your rate could go up 0.5 point depending on the market. So if you started at 3, first 5 years is fixed. Year 6, you could do it. You could go up to 3.5. Yeah, well, you could get out, but you could go up to 3.5. There was a time when these were really good because you got in super low, right? And then the market was really low, so you were just riding the market down. But where we are right now, in the history of mortgage loans, rates have been in the 2s for 9 months ever, in the history of loans ever.
Yeah.
And that was we just lived it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we just lived it. So
Crazy.
An adjustable right now, you're not going to slide down with the market. We don't anticipate that happening. We anticipate rates at some point will go up. So 5 years from now, you're looking at an adjustment up. So we're not doing a lot of adjustable rates right now. I still do them every once in a while for my veterans that are PCSing in from another city and they're only going to be here 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
We'll do a 5-year, because even if they get an extension, they're still good. But with the exception of that, we're not really doing them. The fixed rates are so low, and the difference in rate is not enough to really take the risk. I'm just saying that's the basic difference in principles and product between the two. Well, they've already changed some of that to where when you do an adjustable rate mortgage anyway, you still have to qualify on that rate plus a certain buffer.
Okay.
So it's not like it used to be.
So it's not like it used to be where you don't have to, it does, okay.
No, so they've already built that in a little bit as a fail safe. There's still, there's still things that could come back that could be a problem, but they've even made adjustments to where even on an adjustable rate mortgage, you're only giving it to someone that could qualify at that plus a point higher or something like that. So they're building in several adjustments to where they have plenty of time to get out of this loan if they needed to.